President Carter is one hell of a good guy, and it's wonderful to have his grandson here tonight. Jason Carter is a practicing lawyer. He's a partner in Atlanta. He was undergrad at Duke University, got his law degree at the University of Georgia, and is the chairman of the Carter Center, as you heard. So we're delighted to have him here. And he's a pretty good guy, too, I tell you.
Thank you very much. As he said, this is not my award, but I'm very honored to be here. My grandfather and the partnership that he had with Dr. Vagelos is a truly remarkable one. And he has only sent me really two places in my life. The first was when I had graduated from college, and he said, if you really want to do what you can in the world, you should go to the Peace Corps in Africa, which I did, but like his mother, who turned 70 in the Peace Corps, so it's not too late for anyone here. But he also sent me here tonight, because of the relationship and the great friendship that you all saw between he and Dr. Vagelos, he asked me, my grandfather, to say a few things, and just, of course, I can't sit here and tell you anything that you don't already know about how to develop and cure diseases, but I can, I think, in a brief way, as the chairman of the Carter Center, show you a little bit about how we go about getting your cures to people in the rest of the world. First, Carter Center has, as a huge part of its operations, as Dr. Vagelos already said, a set of scientists of their own. And as my grandfather would be the first to tell you, he, as a micromanaging engineer, understands that the scientists are the one who drive our work. But the important thing about the Carter Center is those epidemiologists and others are not just in Atlanta, but they are all over the world. This man here is named Zerahun Tedezi, and he runs a 300-person office in Ethiopia that manages programs across 4 diseases and is himself one of the great public health experts in the world. We also have high-tech, state-of-the-art laboratories. This one's in Uganda. This one is in Ethiopia. This is in Sudan. And here in Nigeria. This biomedical science is part and parcel of what we do every day. One of the things that you've already talked about and heard about is the mass drug administration that we've achieved over the years, including what we call the miracle drug, Mectizan, that Merck has donated. Here is a picture of your wonderful pills, as you all know. It's amazing what can be carried in the palm of someone's hand. This is one of the ways we treat river blindness, which is, guinea worm disease, which is by putting a bait, also known as Tempipo's larvicide, to kill guinea worm larvae. And we have sophisticated biostatistical surveys where we monitor the effectiveness of these millions and millions of donations. That finger prick, I'm sure, looks familiar to any of the doctors here. But the most important thing that we do, and the thing that I believe makes the Carter Center unique, is exemplified by the guinea worm program that Dr. Vagelos mentioned. This was a program that changed one of the very fundamental facts of people's lives across millions and millions of villages. The way that people collect their water in Chad, in Sudan, in the poorest communities in the world needed to change. And you didn't change that necessarily with a medical innovation. You changed that by going to each and every one of these communities, by respecting the people who live there, by getting into those communities and letting those communities teach each other how to change this particular aspect of their life. This is someone, as you can see, filtering water. This also is someone filtering water. That filter pipe was in essence designed by nomads in Chad and South Sudan because they realized they didn't filter their water the way that other people did, so they needed something they could carry. And as Dr. Vagelos mentioned, in 1986, there were 3.5 million cases of guinea worm disease. and last year there were 25. And we know where every single one of those guinea worms is. And we are after them, and we believe that in the next 2 years, there will be no more guinea worm disease in the world. And the remarkable thing about how we did this, as I said, is an education process. It's not just a medical intervention. And if you see this man here, he lives in Sudan, and he and his community took it upon himself to be a part of a public health campaign. And when guinea worm disease is gone, what is left in its place is a network of people in every single village that used to have guinea worm, who participated in this program, who's been part of a public health system, who's changed their communities, who's seen the results of listening to what someone might come to tell them about how they can live and improve their lives. And to me, that connection with community and with the people who live there is the most important thing at the Carter Center. I attribute it to the fact that my granddad is from a tiny little town, right? I mean, if y'all went there, seriously, it's not even a speck on the map. And a lot of folks, when they look at a tiny village, whether it's in rural Georgia or in Mali, they look at it as a place of hopelessness or a place to send pity. But Jimmy Carter, when he looks at those little communities and places like this where people like this man live, what he sees is people who can change their community and change the world the way that he did. That spirit has helped tens of thousands of people. I'm going to give two very brief examples. Trachoma, as you know, is a disease that is caused by, in essence, ocular chlamydia. That particular infection across large populations, eventually with constant reinfection, can lead to trichiasis, where I won't go into as much detail as you did at the dinner, but your eyelid inverts and slashes your cornea repeatedly and it causes blindness. It's the leading cause of preventable blindness in the world. And here in Amhara, Ethiopia, there's 20 million people who live in endemic areas. At one point, before we started the trachoma program, there was a 70% infection rate, which means you can't cure it one-on-one because the reinfection is constant. So what we observed just this last year is a program that involves mass drug administration, as we said. 15 million doses of Zithromax were given in 1 week in Amhara. That treats the population, to Dr. Vajos's point, not just for trachoma and that infection, but so many other things. And it's donated, as you can see here, by Pfizer, among many others, in the trachoma control program. To give 15 million doses of a drug in a week requires an army of grassroots people out. It requires you to bring people to health centers. It requires these folks to be able to acknowledge the doses, to understand how much to provide, etc. And there's 10,000 people that are Ethiopians in Amhara as a part of this program that are doing this. I took this picture. These are the folks that are making sure and marking them off to make sure that people don't get more than one. It is a truly remarkable grassroots organization. The other aspects of the program are a facial cleanliness education program and an environmental program that teaches folks about latrines. And this young woman was so excited to show off her latrine to my grandmother that she offered to demonstrate how it works. My grandmother said that she understood. The last thing I'll say is the medical professionals in Ethiopia, trained by the Carter Center and in partnership with them, Ethiopian medical professionals performed 111,687 surgeries last year to reverse the trichiasis that has been extended for folks. That is a giant number of people in surgical centers that are working as hard as they can to improve their own communities. The last thing I'm going to say, these grassroots folks, of course, cannot do it on their own. We've heard about the partnership between Merck and the Carter Center. Mectizan treats river blindness. As Dr. Vagelos said, you have microfilaria that eat away at your optic nerve that you get from a fly bite. What we have been able to do over these years is to completely eliminate, because of the donated Mectizan, we've completely eliminated river blindness in almost all of the Americas. This, you can see how excited people are about the power of Mectizan in Guatemala, Ecuador, and Mexico. The only place in the Americas where Mectizan is needed and where river blindness still exists is in literally the most remote part of the Amazon jungle. These folks are taking Mectizan to that place. And twice a year, for the twice-a-year doses of Mectizan that will eventually eliminate river blindness among the Orinoco in this area, it takes weeks to get there. This is how the Carter Center delivers Mectizan to the very last place that it exists in the Americas. This is a picture of the 500 millionth dose of medicine. This was provided in Nigeria. That young man's name is Jude. Think about that for a minute. 500 million doses of medication that were provided by healthcare workers in their communities to the people there who never had to pay a dime to receive them. It just wouldn't be possible without the vision and the support of the people in this room. And for that, the Carter Center gives great thanks. On a final personal note, my grandfather also and I, as Dr. Bagelos mentioned, they just had their 71st wedding anniversary. 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, he was 91 years old. He had melanoma in his brain, 4 tumors in his brain, 1 on his liver. He received state-of-the-art pharmaceutical care, and today, I know, for example, that what we in our family call the Jimmy Carter drug won an award here last year. But it means a lot to me and to my family on a very personal level, that the work that you have done has allowed us to spend the last several years with my grandfather. So thank you very much. God bless you all.